gentlemen, I hope everybody can hear me okay. Our two musicians are Christine Gilmore and Katie Grauke. Aren't they wonderful? Let's give them another great round of applause. Thank you so much, ladies.
Can you guys hear me okay with the microphone? Great. All right. Well, good evening. On behalf of the Moscow Arts Commission, I would like to welcome you to the City of Moscow Mayor's Arts Awards. These awards are the showcase event for why we are known as the Heart of the Arts. I'm Iris Mays. I'm the chair of the Moscow Arts Commission, and I'd like to ask my fellow commission members to please rise to be acknowledged. These folks represent a wide array of the arts and have helped us to do lots of different programming and events throughout the year. And we also have some former commission members. Former commission members, please stand. Joanne Munetta, I know you're here, and yes, great. Thanks. I'd also like to acknowledge our elected officials who are in the audience. So elected officials, please rise. Just get warmed up with lots of clapping. Thank you so much for your service. Great. The Mayor's Office, the City Arts Department, and the Moscow Arts Commission have collaborated to bring you these awards beginning in 1998. This is the 10th Biennial Mayor's Arts Award. The program has all of the past recipients listed, and you can see that we have a high caliber of artists. I'm sure you'll know some of the names. Arts educators and arts advocates. This year's recipients also represent that high caliber. I'd like to now turn over the microphone to Mayor Bill Lambert.
Thank you, Iris, very much. And ladies and gentlemen, it's always fun to do this event. We can all sit in here. It's one of my fun nights as the mayor because I can relax. And everybody in the room, our world is right here in these four walls. Isn't that fun? And we can just have a nice evening and we can forget about everything that goes off outside these walls and have a fun event tonight. But it's so much fun talking about artists and what they do and what they bring, the culture that they bring to our community. And the fun thing that I know about artists is most of them are so humble about what they do. And a lot of them, in some ways, are even embarrassed by getting good recognition that they widely deserve. And so for all of us here, I think that's a pretty neat thing. And so the artists that have received awards in the past and the artists that are receiving awards this evening are a huge part of our community. And the Arts Commission, as all commissions, as a mayor, I just love the work that these folks do. We have men and women that take lots of time, and it's their passion that brings it forward. So it's my pleasure to be here, and that's how I truly feel. So tonight's going to be a fun night. We're going to enjoy ourselves, and let's get on with the activities. What do you think, Iris? Should we go? And as we go through the evening, we will be talking about all kinds of individuals, and I've got a little bit that I'm going to say about them, but I'm going to have all of our nominees speak in behalf of each artist that are going to get recognized for this award. So we're going to start off with the outstanding contributions to business. And that is Jamie Knudson with State Farm. And the nominee is Ryan Lee.
We have the Poet Laureate first.
I'm so sorry. See, that's why. That's what. Well, you give me the microphone, you never know what's going to happen, folks.
That's why we love you.
Okay, so I'm going to let you take over right now.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, this is new this year because, and so this is why this is a new thing. We have a Poet Laureate for the first year, and so we're really lucky to have Tiffany Midge, and I'll say a few words about her. She is a graduate of University of Idaho. She has an MFA, but she is a well-known writer already and prolific and highly regarded in a wide variety of publications. She's a humor columnist at Indian Country Today and is the author of the award-winning poetry collection, The Woman Who Married a Bear. please welcome Tiffany Mitch. She's going to read a couple poems for us.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. The very first poem that I ever read by Robert Wrigley, whom all of you I'm sure know, was an autumnal poem about morels, but not morels, and it's called Morality. The heavy thatch of needle and leaf is sun-mottled, so the eye you need to find them almost always fails. But when you do, the dark knuckles roughing up the duff, the reticular brains bobbing in the air and breathing a sexual musk, after that, they're everywhere. Your grocery bag grows as heavy as a child and limped, as if plucked up they could only sleep and dream of how the sun they had yearned for awaits them in the butter's slick and the skillet's sublunary bed, where they'll sizzle from fungal unto meat, which you will take and eat. I was a student of Bob Wrigley's, and unbeknownst to myself at the time, I had co-opted that poem and written my own. And this one is also about mushrooms, and it's called Evening Meal. Mushrooms are seekers. They sweat in a pan of garlic and butter, fuss, bicker, and toss, toughing it out like the rest of us. They furl, tucking into themselves along an arm of steam. They eye a slant of vinegar, the crush of lemon rising like a halved sun along the horizon of skillet. And all because they want what we want, the dose of salt, the kiss to be poured onto a plate. They want praise, perhaps even dare ask for love. Thank you.
Okay, well.
Okay, all right. That sounds good. Okay. Thank you. All right, so we'll now proceed with the presentation of awards. And I would like to now invite Ryan Law to come up for the outstanding, she's nominated the outstanding contributions as a business to Jamie Knudson State Farm. Ryan.
Oh, hello. Can you guys hear me? Do I need to do this? Is that a little better? So good to see all of you out here tonight. It is a great night to celebrate all of the arts. My name is Ryan. And before I talk about the award that I nominated Jamie for, I wanted to extend a huge and giant thanks to Kathleen and to DJ for all the hard work and the time and the effort that they put in to make this community the heart of the arts and all the artists that they support in that. And an extension and thanks to Bill Lambert for creating this event and holding space for it. Thank you. So it is my pleasure to announce and acknowledge that Jamie Knudson of the State Farm Insurance Company right here on Main Street has won the Business Art Award. I have a long-standing relationship with State Farm, both in the art world and in the fender-bender world. Jamie has been a tremendous support and encouragement to me in my artwork over the past few years, but it is not just myself that has benefited from the opportunity to show my work at State Farm. PWS over there, our wonderful watercolor group, has shown there. Woodworkers have shown there, oil painters, other watercolorists, and photographers have all had the opportunity to display their work at State Farm. being that State Farm is smack in the middle of our beautiful downtown Moscow, it has a wonderful opportunity for artists to show their work there because of the very high ceilings, the ample wall space, and the wonderful windows. I think State Farm building is really the only building that adequately can display three-dimensional work in such a good way. Jamie has put on a wonderful art walk, if you guys have ever been to that. Hundreds of our local folk and our away folk have been able to walk through those doors and see art throughout Art Walk. And I greatly appreciate the request that Jamie offers that we as artists put out an artist statement, and he requests that to us, at all of us, to put out an artist statement as far as why we make what we make, why we create, why we do our work. And he uses that to educate people, like we all do in why we make the art we make, is to educate people on our passions, what drives us and motivates us. And it pushes our art beyond the borders of Moscow and into the greater community. So whoever came up with the idea of pairing businesses with artists was brilliant. It was a brilliant idea to put those two things together. And I thank Jamie very much for his support and encouragement over the few years. And I thank all the other artists who have been here tonight for all the work that you guys do, making our community just that much more beautiful with the art that you produce. Thank you, and congratulations, Jamie. And Jamie, come on up here.
Before we give Jamie his award, one of the things I read, I don't know how many different letters and from all the different folks, nominees and support letters throughout all of the different artists that we're going to talk about tonight. But Ryan, in her letter, wrote this, and I'll just quote one of your paragraphs. I am not the only artist who has been benefited by State Farm's generous support of local artists. Photographers, watercoloring painters, and oil painters have all been represented by State Farm. So I thought that was pretty neat, Ryan, so I wanted to mention that. So, do we have pardon me?
One of the things that we'd like to do before we give this first award is acknowledge David Herbold, who made these beautiful awards. They're birds on a little rooftop and engraved, and so we just wanted you all to see those. So sometime tonight, when you're congratulating the recipients, you'll want to come up and see those awards. So thanks to David Herbold.
So are we going to read them up here then?
And then you'll have, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So. I'm going to let you have that. I don't want to drop it. All right. Kind of a klutz.
And we'll do more photo.
Yep.
Great. This is good. We'll get this down.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Our next nominators could not be here. They're at a dance performance tonight. I would like to invite my fellow commissioner, Diane Walker, to come up. Diane is receiving this award on behalf of Rae Smith. And Diane is wearing her University of Idaho hat a bit too here. So thank you, Diane.
Smith is a double major in dance and exercise science. She's in her 5th year here, and she'll finish both degrees in May. Neither Lauren nor her faculty nominator, Belle Baggs, could be here tonight. They're dancing, of course. So you can see them tomorrow night, Saturday night, or Sunday matinee up in the Hartung. In the faculty concert for this fall, which is called Defining Balance. I'm happy to stand in for both. Lauren is a dancer, so you can know her in 2 ways. You can see her perform, or I can share some comments of the people who wrote in support of the nomination, so that you understand more about her in their words. Belle Baggs, who nominated her, wrote, "It is my pleasure to nominate my student Lauren Smith for the Outstanding University Student in the Arts Award. Since her freshman year as a dance major, she has distinguished herself as a leader, a hard worker, and a highly passionate and focused woman, a true once-in-a-lifetime student. Not only does she deeply care about her own success in the arts, but she understands the transformative power of the arts and serves as an advocate for dance in her community. She brightens up any room with her ability to support a positive and creative environment that encourages others to work toward their full potential. She has grown to be an incredible performer, choreographer, and researcher through her dedication as a student, and remains humble, inquisitive, and self-reflective. Abby Granville, the Festival Dance Executive Director, writes, "She is a passionate and selfless instructor and devotes her attention wholly to her students despite her demanding academic obligations. In addition, Lauren is tremendously civic-minded and routinely rallies her peers to get involved and take advantage of unique opportunities, such as master classes, presentations, and Q&A sessions offered by visiting artists. Lauren was instrumental in the National Water Dance Initiative this past spring, in which she helped organize a site-specific dance, and that was down at the fountain at Friendship Square, a site-specific dance opportunity for community members, meant to shed light on pressing water resource issues that are affecting Moscow and the rest of the nation. Mustafa Hegassi, who was a former UI exercise science professor, and he was Lauren's teacher and her exercise science advisor when he was here, wrote, "Outside of the classroom, Lauren worked with me on a research project comparing jump landing mechanics of dancers to those of non-dancers. Then she presented our findings at an international conference, the International Dance Exercise Association. The biggest obstacle we had in the process was time. Her schedule was full from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., almost on a daily basis. These 14-hour days were mainly made up of classes and dance practice. I have no idea how she did it, but she managed. I do not think I have ever met anyone with the commitment to a task as much as Lauren is committed to dance. About a year ago, one of the students in the dance program was telling me about wanting to participate in a national dance competition, but doesn't think he can be at that level. When I told him that he needs to put in the hours, he responded by saying, 'I'm not Lauren Smith. I don't think I can make it even if I do put in the hours.'" And to finish up, Dan Buckvich, whom we all, I think, know, but our first UI Distinguished Professor of Music, sums it up. He says, Lauren is an integral part of and a student leader in our annual holiday concert and Dancers, Drummers, Dreamers productions. She is the go-to person for creative help, thoughtful critique, peer mentoring, and behind-the-scenes organization. Lauren is a professional choreographer, performer, and a 4-point student. She is the hope for the future. Please give Lauren Smith the Outstanding University Student in the Arts Award, then hire her for anything. So, Mayor Lambert, I'm happy to present Lauren for this award.
I want to say a few comments about her, too.
One of the fun things that I did was I called this young woman up, Lauren Rae Smith, and I called her on the phone and told her who I was, and she was such a humble person. And she was, as Diane had read, very busy young lady as well. And so she said, "Oh my gosh, I can't make it that night." I said, "You can't?" And she says, "No, neither can my nominees." I said, "Well, somebody's got to come here. You're too good." And this is the book I have for all these different acknowledgments for this young woman. And I read through, like I said earlier, every single page. And one of those letters, Diane here who incidentally was an Arts Award winner in 2012 with us as well. And I want to read this one paragraph that Diane wrote. She says, "Without a doubt, Lauren is an exceptional artist. Her work enriches the Moscow community as well as the university population. I could write pages about her. She will be graduating in May, and she will be greatly missed, but we know she will be recognized to our campus and community as she makes her way in the professional dance world." And after reading these things, and I was so intrigued about it, I called her back again. I said, "Are you sure you can't make it?" And she's doing a performance tonight, is my understanding. Very dedicated to what she does, and that's what artists do. They're very dedicated to what they do. And I was so intrigued by this young woman. I told her, I said, "I need to meet you because you are a prize for our community." And so I'm looking forward to that,
Next
Diane.
week,
So thank
maybe,
you for
yes.
very kind words. I don't want to take that lightly. I wish she was there for all of us to see her because this is terrific. So
Yes, thank you.
with that, let's give you the award, Diane. Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool. And this guy's going to take a picture, so. Did you get it? Thank you so much.
Very much.
Our next award is in Arts Advocacy. And the nominee was nominated by Bill Voxman and Joanne Reese. Joanne, would you like to come up?
I have been given the great honor to represent the 3 nominees and more than 20 authors of letters of support, and to introduce Willi Kardong to you all here at the Arts Awards. Willi is known to her vast array of friends and fans as Willi rather than Willemina, her given name. And she is the proud recipient this year of the mayor's 2016 Arts Advocacy Award. Willi has dedicated over 40 years of support for a wide array of art forms and causes, not just here in Moscow, but throughout the greater Palouse region. A short listing of highlights of positions she has held and accomplishments she's accumulated over these 4 decades in our community bears strong testimony to her dedication and support of the arts, indeed an art advocate from the very beginning. And I first met Willi in 1972, so I have a little bit of history with her. In the 1970s, Willi distinguished herself as being a very, very accomplished fiber arts enthusiast, practitioner, and a teacher, and she taught many courses in Pullman through the Spokane Community College system. In the 1980s, and throughout the 1990s, she served as director of presidential events for 3 consecutive WSU presidents who were very, very privileged to have her organizational skills. But Willi never missed an opportunity to become an ambassadorial, an ambassador to highlight the artistic talents of people in the region and to welcome guests and visitors alike with gifts of art from our local Palouse community. Her passion for opera led her in the post-retirement years from WSU in the late 1990s and early 2000 to advocate and accomplish a feat that few would endeavor to assume. She brought 4 seasons of the San Francisco Opera to the Village Center theaters with the capable assistance of the theater owners, and has increased opera patronage in the region each season that the San Francisco Opera was being performed. And she demonstrated, more importantly, that the audience for opera was an extremely viable audience for future productions. Working very, very closely from 2008 and forward to today, Willi has worked closely with the Kenworthy Performing Arts Center and its board of directors, and over many years was finally able to persuade the New York Metropolitan Opera to offer 10 Met Opera live in high-definition performances in Moscow each season. And the season began in 2014 after months and years of negotiations to be sure that the Kenworthy was properly equipped to offer world-class performances. And we've enjoyed the benefits of that every season since. There's really more to the Metropolitan Opera story, for which Willi is prominently featured in this Arts Advocacy Award. She went on then to work closely over the past 2 years with the Moscow School District to bring Moscow School District educators into the cause, and to finally persuade the Metropolitan Opera that the school district deserved to expand its offerings here in Moscow to Moscow school children and teens through the live Met performances in the schools. And in so doing, we were able to make Moscow the only school district in Idaho to offer training for educators in the school system, and to offer free tickets to those students who were in courses of music, and exposing them to world-class performances in opera. Before each production, Willi went on to author and regularly send opera enthusiasts of the Palouse newsletters, and she maintains an ever-growing roster of opera goers to Kenworthy's live Met in HD series. And she also arranges for talented and articulate spokespeople comprised of area music professionals to offer introductory comments before each opera to help us be a more informed audience. Before introductions, she shares a little bit of the presenters provide us with a little bit of amusing background for how the opera themes will evolve, and a little bit about each of the composers. Before each production, Willi truly loves the visual arts as well, and she has served 2 3-year terms on the board of the Pritchard Gallery, and a recent term as president of the board as well. She has devoted as much time and attention to the Pritchard as she has available, and loves to provide service to the Pritchard and its programs. But it's really not just the positions and the accomplishments that tell of the admiration and support she has earned for this honor tonight. The outpouring of supportive friends, colleagues, former employers, and fans voice loudly and clearly the traits that Willi embodies and so generously shares with her community. I will quote only a few comments from the accolades in the nomination letters, of which there were 3. And then I will very, very quickly cite some of the heartwarming accolades that people said about her in these wonderful support letters. The feature that most separates Willi from the others with strong passions is her remarkable ability to convert her passions into actions that have reaped benefits for the entire Moscow community and the greater Palouse region. And this is especially true for opera, but also for the visual arts. Another commenter wrote, the impact of Willemina Kardong's advocacy for the arts in Moscow is immeasurable. As a result of her efforts, Moscow has joined a worldwide community of more than 350,000 opera enthusiasts in over 70 countries at each of the season opera's broadcasts. And a third nominator said, through live Met broadcasts offered in Moscow, Idaho, What the Palouse really gets from Willi's advocacy and leadership is the regular experience of the world's greatest composers, the world's greatest orchestra, the world's greatest singers, directors, and designers, thrilling acting, close-ups of artists and singers, subtitles, and chats with performers off stage during the interviews. And we in Moscow pay only $20 for what people live in the Met House have paid between $300 and $500 to see. What's more, performance brings laughter, tears, and bliss to our entire blues community. And a few of the accolades that I would highlight here and share, they've been oft repeated in all of the letters of support that were submitted on her behalf. She is passionate and energetic. She is enthusiastically and infectiously pervasive and persistent. She is engaging and proactive. She has amazing organizational talents, is willing to advocate and serve long hours often. She is an articulate spokesperson and leader. She's courteous, respectful, and knowledgeable. She is unselfish and modest. She is a generous team builder. She holds extremely high professional standards. She is well-informed and articulate. She is unwavering. She is inspiring. She is committed to see initiatives succeed. And this woman is tireless, and I can personally attest to that. Now, please join me in recognizing Willemina, Willi Kardong, our great friend and community advocate, as she receives her richly deserved award.
Come on over here, I'm not like this. How about this lady? She deserves a standing ovation. Today was the very first time that I met Willi. And I'm going to take the lecture at calling Willi because all these letters in this book, and I'm going to tell you something, folks, there's 23 letters, and I read every single one of these 3 or 4 times. And after I read this book 3 or 4 different times, and I pondered through it, I told Joanne, I believe, that I feel like I've known this lady for 50 years because of the passion that's in her. And I'm going to read just a few things out from a couple of letters from students you had from yesterday, Willi, but my guess is there probably could have been 300 pages of stuff in here after all the things that Joanne had said, and it's absolutely correct. But I want to share with you something, one of the letters that I read, and I'll take a couple parts of this. So I'm going to read this, and this is from Dana Piggy, PhD. And this person was the tenor at the Metro Opera, and he's retired now, from Nyack College, is that pronounced correct, in New York City. And one of the paragraphs he wrote, I have had the pleasure of knowing her for 50 years and have seen her grow as an advocate for the arts, especially opera. I met her as a high school student when she was first beginning as a teacher. Her subject, biology, came alive and she made it seem, as it is, an art form, a discovery. I had no idea then that my life would change later and I would find myself involved as a professional singer who was fortunate to sing it in dozens of countries, including 450 performances at the Metropolitan Opera. Now what that is, this lady was a mentor.
Anything to do with that?
No, I know. This is from the heart from somebody. And somebody that's very close. And I do not know Dana, but somebody that does know him is Dr. Sue Lane Piggy, and I'm guessing that is his spouse. And she is an associate dean at Nyack College of Music, School of Music. And she wrote, this was kind of a fun one. Dana Taylor's high school experience was enlightened by the presence of his excellent, imaginative biology teacher, Miss Willi, Langer Doon.
Very good.
And affectionately nicknamed by some shameless young men as a pretty little loaf. And that cracked me up. And so, I'm not trying to embarrass you, Willie, but I can't make this stuff up, folks. This is real stuff. And this is what's so wonderful about that. And she says, and she goes on and says, well, even I remember Landendorf bread, don't you? And I do, because I'm an old Safeway guy for many, many years. But the point that I'm making was, Willie has touched people's lives, and here's a couple of people's lives that she has touched years ago as a high school teacher. So as I was reading through these things, I thought, oh my God, how could you not give this woman this award? That's what I thought. So with that, Willie, I'm going to let you talk. Thank you so very much about being here. And talk about modest. We get this person up here. She's a short woman, but let me tell you what, she's a mighty person too. Okay, you want to get her picture first? Okay.
I am so incredibly honored by this award. I'm really rather intimidated by it all because, believe me, I would much rather be on the other side, and as I've done in the past, to be able to nominate somebody and talk about them in such glowing terms. I'm not sure I know this person that you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, they know you.
The Palouse here, our Palouse region is truly the heart of the arts, and for both the visual and the performing arts. And we are so fortunate to be surrounded by so many individuals who either create or support our arts, both of these forms of art. When the team at the Village Center Cinemas about 6 years ago very enthusiastically agreed to start showing the live, and these were not live, these were recorded performances of San Francisco opera, they cautioned me and said, we need at least 20 people to come to this opera to make it worth our while to do this. And so the first opera, Madame Butterfly, I stood in the theater, of course I got there early, and was counting people as they were coming in, hoping that at least 20 would come. And there were over 130 people at the Sunday show, and 65 more at the encore performance that was shown a couple of nights later. So it was definitely a support. Then, about 4 years ago, these same supporters then made it possible for the Kenworthy, and the Kenworthy, of course, was the perfect location for this kind of venture, but up until that time, they didn't have the technical capabilities. When I first started checking around for a theater site, of course, Kenworthy was the very first place I thought of, but at that time, they weren't yet digital. In the interim, while we were showing the 4 years of San Francisco operas, the Kenworthy did go digital. And then all they needed was a satellite. And so these same wonderful supporters made it possible for the Kenworthy to acquire the satellite system that then allowed the Med live transmissions to appear at the Kenworthy. So, and now also the National Theatre Live from the stage of the London Theatre. So you all should come. As my friends know, last year was a rather difficult year for me, but it was also a wonderful year because it was the start of the Moscow School Student Program of the Med Live in Schools. And this is now the second year that we've done this. And as Joanne mentioned, the Moscow School District is the only district in the state of Idaho that they were selected. We had to apply, and they only Moscow is the site of this. Boise isn't. Last Saturday, the first 25 students of a total of 200 who will be attending Met Operas during this coming season. The first 25 students attended a 3.5-hour opera, Mozart's Don Giovanni, and afterwards, several of the middle school students rushed up to me and they said, "Wow, that was totally great. I totally didn't think I would like it, but it was wonderful. And we want to see all the other operas." And that's what this is all about. What makes me truly happy. And your wonderful tribute tonight only adds to that joy. Thank you very much.
You're in Moscow, not in Boise? Because the ladies like this, how is it like opera? Oh my God. And the schools, the kids in here, there's letters in here from teachers up here, our high school and stuff. This is a unique community, folks. This is what makes this fun, you know. Anyway, I could go on and on and on about it, but thank you so very much, Willi and Joanne, for that. She, and she is a humble lady, but my God, I read through this thing. I get goosebumps thinking about this. Talk about getting warm. Holy Toledo. This is a big deal for us folks, and this is what makes our community so great. I'm so glad she's on our team here in the city of Moscow. I can tell you that. Thank you so much.
All right, our next award is in arts education. I would like to ask Betty Benson, please come up, and she has nominated the Palouse Water Socius.
Oh, it works.
Yeah, great.
There we go.
Can you hear me back there, all you people that are sitting with me?
She's got a soft voice. Can you hear okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you. We are excited to be here. I'm speaking for the Palouse Watercolor Socius, and there are 9 members back there sitting at the table, plus 2 guests, and I thank all of you for coming tonight. Our president is David Ball, and David was going on a vacation to the East Coast recently, and I called him up before he left and I said, "I'm going to write this thing." He said, "You go for it." So I did, and after you called, I said, "David, do you want to go speak tonight?" He said, "No, I don't think so." So I guess I'm stuck with it, okay? And by the way, David was there during Hurricane Matthew, dodging the water and the wind and all of that. But he says he had a great time, and so did Eileen, his wife. Anyway, we're just happy to be here. We're very honored to have this occasion and to be recognized by the community. Palouse Watercolor Socius started in 1974. So it's getting to be an old person, I guess, if you want to call it that. I'm told by Linda Wallace, who was the first president and probably one of the major organizers of PWS, that a group of watercolor artists just sort of got together and decided they would start a group. So they did. And it's been going ever since, 42 years now. Over time, we've had 30 to 40 members continually. Right now, we have about 30, which is pretty remarkable, I think, for a group to continue that long and, keep on keeping on. Artists at this point live in Moscow, Troy, and over time they've lived in Deary, Lewiston, Grangeville, Bayview, Pullman, Clarkston, Stoughton, Anatone, Colfax, Spokane, just all over. And we're really happy about that. Two of the people here tonight are from Pullman, who are members, and we're always happy to have people from anywhere, as long as you're interested in watercolor. You just come, we'll make you happy, and we'll paint and talk and criticize and learn things from each other. And we're always very willing to support one another. I don't think we're ever jealous if somebody has success, getting in an art show or sells a painting or anything like that. We just don't do that. We're nice, mostly. Every now and then we might get a little outing. We do offer educational opportunities, venues for sales, and workshops and exhibits. During the year, we have a children's workshop that Bobby Kelly over there teaches, and it's in conjunction with the Palouse Clearwater Environmental Institute during the summertime, so kids can go out and paint and have a good time with Bobby and people over at PCEI. We offer beginner and intermediate level workshops during the year. Bobby also teaches those, and some other people sometimes do too. And Bobby is a qualified former high school art teacher for 32 years or whatever it was. And the quality of the artwork done by the PWS members is rather impressive, if I do say so myself. We enter juried art shows, and we're frequently accepted into these shows, like the Idaho Watercolor Society, Montana Watercolor Society, Northwest Watercolor Society. One of our former members had her painting on the program cover of the California Watercolor Society, which would be a hoop-de-doo big deal, I think. She probably went on to bigger and better things right now, I guess. We have exhibited in the Pritchard Gallery and the Center for Arts and History in Lewiston as a group, and also the Damon Barn in Uniontown. We've exhibited in many local venues during Moscow Art Walk. I'm sure you've seen our stuff around here and there and everywhere. We've partnered with Latah County Fair, State Farm downtown, both with Cosgroves and Jamie Knudson, the 1912 Center, East Side Marketplace, Moscow Chamber of Commerce, Gritman Medical Center, Avista, Moscow Pullman Airport, D.A. Davidson, Palouse Watercolor Environmental Institute, Latah County Arts Commission, Inland Northwest Watercolor Society, and probably others that I don't even remember. For a time we had a traveling show, and we would take our stuff to these communities and set it up on a Saturday when they were having their community event. So during that time we went to Kendrick, Troy, Genesee, Garfield, Palouse, and we've gone to the Lentil Festival in Pullman more than once, a few times. It was fun. It's a lot of work to travel with your stuff and set up all these big things, to hang it on and all that. We also have had members, I didn't do it myself, but I wrote a grant or two to get money to have members teach at Good Samaritan Village and Park House for the residents that live there. We're not doing that at present, but it's always possible in the future to do it again. As I said earlier, we began in 1974, long before any of us here were members, but we still have one of the original members, Linda Wallace, who is currently still a member, and we're happy to have her. And some of this stuff I learned from Linda, by the way. We invite all of you to be members if you like. You welcome to learn to paint if you don't already do it. If you do, we're happy to have you come and paint with us, compete with us, show with us whatever we do, and help educate us. We're always happy to learn. And we also have a show coming up at the Damon Barn in November in Uniontown, Washington. Please come and look at our artwork. And thank you again, Mr. Mayor. We are so excited to get this award. There are... So we're probably going to have to take turns taking it home with me one day and Jan next day and Bobby the day after that and on so we can share it, okay?
There is something I want to talk about here for the Palouse Water Socius, and what I want to say is I read their mission statement, and here it is what it is. It says, our mission is to encourage and promote watercolor artists and foster an awareness of water media on the Palouse. PWS is dedicated to encouraging artists at all levels of ability and artistic achievement in a nurturing and educational environment. That says it all. And I'd like to see the people with that PWS, would you just please stand up so we can all see who you all are? This is only part of it, but I don't have any idea. We would probably fill the place up, huh, Betty?
Well, we'd probably fill up a few tables.
Well, thank you, folks, for being here.
Great, thank you much. Oh, yeah, this is what we have to share.
Yeah.
Right.
We just have to go amongst from
Right.
one house to the next, Betty.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
That was fun, huh? Our next, no, just that one.
Oh, is that one?
Our next award is the Individual Excellence in the Arts Award, and this person was nominated by Rebecca Rod. Would you please come up with that?
Hi everybody, can you hear me all right? Good. I have known Gerri Sayler for almost 25 years as a friend and fellow artist, and I continue to be awed by the ever-expanding range of her artistic expressions. From the small framed box collages and assemblages that she created in her early work, to the current large-scale and kinetic concept sculptures that she's been installing in gallery showrooms all across the Northwest. But the crowning hallmark of Gerri's awesomeness as an artist is her irrepressible ability to fan the fire and love of art in those around her, encouraging anyone and everyone to try it, to do it, to engage in it on whatever level they feel speaks to them, because Gerri believes in the transforming power of art. Gerri started out with a BA in journalism in the early 80s, but art already had her heart. While she utilized that practical degree to earn a living, she took whatever art classes she could to feed her soul. After she and her family arrived on the Palouse in the early 1990s, she enrolled in ceramics courses here at the University of Idaho. And then while she spent a number of years working in professional positions at the University of Idaho, she continued making art whenever she could find time. Then the time finally arrived when she could realize her dream to study art full-time, and she ultimately achieved her goal of receiving a BFA in studio art from the U of Idaho in 2007. Since then, Gerri has fully committed herself to the arts, personally and professionally. She served as the director of the Downtown Above the Rim Gallery for 5 years, curating a number of wonderful shows featuring and promoting local artists from Moscow and the wider Palouse. And in 2008, she became a regional public art advisor for the Idaho Commission on the Arts, serving in that position for 3 years. She has also been a longtime member of the local Palouse Women Artists Group, where her enthusiasm and encouragement have been personally inspiring to many of the members, not to mention her expertise at helping produce and promote local shows and the workshops that she presented to the membership. Gerri Sayler has created and produced a number of arts workshops locally and regionally. Perhaps some of you have gone to some of them. Her day-long arts retreats combine journaling, collaging, and sculpting, and have always been well attended and acclaimed by the participants at our 1912 Center and at the Pritchard Art Gallery, as well as at Holden Village and the Bellevue Arts Museum in Washington State. These frequent offerings attest to her strong drive to bring individuals and communities into art experiences that are not only fun, but engage art souls at a deeper level. Gerri has also brought her experience and expertise to groups of interested folks as the invited guest lecturer across the Northwest, from the UI to WSU to art classes at Central Washington University, Whitworth College, as well as in galleries and museums in Idaho, Washington, Montana, and Wyoming. Gerri Sayler has been a very busy artist since earning her studio art degree. She has been selected for residencies in Washington and Wyoming, where she's had opportunities to grow her own art. She has been awarded 4 arts grants from the Idaho Commission on the Arts, and she won the Jurors First Place Arts Award in the 2007 Idaho Triennial at the Boise Art Museum. Over the past 9 years, Gerri has had solo installations in over 20 galleries, 10 of those in the last 6 years. The list of galleries and museums that have invited Gerri to show grows more and more impressive as her recognition spreads through the region. She has shown at the Sun Valley Center of the Arts, the Bellevue Art Museum, the Missoula Art Museum, the Northwest Museum of Arts and Culture in Spokane, and at Tsuyama Space, Method Gallery, and in the Out of Sight exhibit in Seattle, to name a few. I could go on, but I encourage you to see the list of Gerri's involvement and accomplishments on the resume on her website. Suffice it to say, Gerri Sayler has been living and breathing art for quite some time, and her love for it and dedication to it imbues the very essence of her life. It is one thing to be an artist who produces art. In whatever form, the artist's soul finds its best own expression. But Gerri Sayler is the rarer example of an artist whose commitment to the expression of art goes many steps further. Gerri emanates art. She wants to live stream it to the world. She has broadcasted it on Yin Radio. She pushes it. Yes, Gerri produces remarkable art, but it doesn't stop with her. She wants to bring folks along. She wants to tell you that you can do it too. And she'll help you. She'll show you. She'll brainstorm and create opportunities for anyone interested. And she has done that many times right here in our community of Moscow, promoting, facilitating, and inspiring individuals, I know because I'm one, and classes throughout the Northwest region as well. This is what sets Gerri apart and makes me believe that she's well deserving of our Moscow Mayor's Arts Award for Individual Excellence. She is not only an excellent artist in her own right, she is an ambassador of art, connecting people and communities in our city and beyond, bringing us all along into the embracing and expanding circle of art. Congratulations, Gerri. Please come forward and receive your well-deserved award.
There's not much left to say, Jerry.
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Well, but before you get a chance to speak, though, I'm going to say something about you. And this is something that came from Rebecca as the nominator for you, Jerry. And I really got to, I read this, and I just got to share this with everybody here tonight. This is what sets Gerri apart and makes me believe she is well-deserving of Moscow's Mayor's Arts Award for individual excellence. She is not only an excellent artist in her own right, she is an ambassador of the arts, connecting people and communities in our city and beyond, bringing us along into an embracing and expanding circle of art. She is a top-notch nominee for this award. And I agree with that, Jerry. Well, smile at that guy right over there.
This is how you get a piece by David Herbo. This is beautiful, and there's a bird on here, Kenton. Got it? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Commissioner. And I will, yes. I know about these things called microphones. They can be your friend or your enemy. Rebecca, I'm speaking tonight because I knew she'd go overboard as she did. And this, my friends, whose idea was this, Donna? It's a sisal twine. We'll talk about that in a second. Thank you. I started unraveling it as soon as I arrived. I am so humbled by this award, and also honored to be here tonight sharing the podium with your next award winner, Robert Wrigley, one of the nation's finest contemporary poets and an extraordinary teacher here at the University of Idaho. Rebecca, Teresa, and the many people who wrote letters of support to my husband, Kenton Bird, companion, comedian extraordinaire, for his patience, kindness, and loving support in the face of stupidity. He told me tonight something I didn't realize. We were having dinner at the Nectar, that 6 years ago tonight, my exhibit at Sayama Space in Seattle opened. It was 2006. No. What year was that?
2010.
But I wanted to tell you a quick story because Rebecca made it sound easy and full of lots of success, but I'm standing here, my knees are shaking as they have been for 10 years. 10 years ago, in the fall of 2006, I was a senior in the BFA program at the University of Idaho. I had just opened a solo exhibit of collages at the Reflections Gallery on campus. The next morning, and some of you don't know this, Sally, you might know this story. The next morning, two of my advisors, David Geese and Jill Dacey, asked me to come by for a chat. I expected something nice about my exhibit at the Reflections Gallery, but no, not one word of praise, only criticism. That's what it felt like at the time. David launched in straight away. What are you doing? What do you mean? He asked me questions that sliced me like a spear. Did you really come back to school to do what you already knew how to do? When are you going to get serious about learning to make real art? I'm probably exaggerating slightly for stage purposes, but I could not hear what was intended as well-intended advice, nor the wisdom amassed from years of being an exhibiting artist and knowing what he was talking about. He was kindly offering this to me, and all I could hear was criticism. Jill Dacey, to her credit, did her best to soften the blows, but I was crushed. I have to say this. I cried, and I cried, and I cried. I behaved like a child. I said, fine. If that's what you want, I'm going to forget everything I know about making art, which obviously isn't much. And I and I'm going to start making messes, maybe painting abstractions. Of course, that's what David does. I stormed out of the building, headed down the hill for class, tripped on the sidewalk, and fell on my ass. At the sculpture lab, I began hunting for something, just anything to keep my hands busy. I had no idea what I was going to do. I was embarrassed and I was scared. I mean, here I was, supposedly a grown-up woman. I had just quit my job as the director of marketing after 7 years with Idaho Repertory Theater and the U of I Theater Department, and I didn't have a clue. Not a clue. In the supply cabinet that day, I found a large spool of sisal twine. I cut a hunk of it, and I began to unravel the fibers. And as the pile of unraveled fibers grew, I became more and more animated, more and more intrigued at how they seemed to twist and turn, how they seemed to dance as if they were unbound as they were, just like something that's been let out of a closet. Yippee! I can almost hear those fibers singing. That fall semester, I created 7 life-size cocoons of sisal twine. They were hideous. But they were my first suspended installation. David Geese is in New York, just back from Rome. I wish that he was here tonight to hear me tell you how grateful, and I have told him privately, how very grateful I am for his robust tutelage and his very wise counsel, because he changed everything that day, that very day, when he asked me those 2 important questions. I'm also immensely grateful to Roger Rowley, who's here tonight. In the spring of 2007, he made room for one of my early twine sculptures. It earned me a slot at the Idaho Triennial. My reward was winning first place, and that reward for winning first place was a solo exhibit at the Boise Art Museum. Now, I won the Triennial for pieces made out of fiber and bamboo, but I had a little experiment in the spring with some hot glue and water, and I discovered something that looked a whole lot like the icicles that I grew up with in Minnesota and the waves of the water that I swam in nearly every day during the summer. And I pitched them a hot glue exhibit. 1,000 strands, 20 feet long, hanging in the sculpture court at the Boise Art Museum. Bill Bowler, please tell him that I recognized him tonight, and his former student, the very talented Dylan Ellison, who's off making movies and designing sets somewhere in Nevada, I think Las Vegas. He and Bill provided me invaluable design advice for that exhibit, my first hot glue exhibit. That's all to say that it wasn't all success and it wasn't all talent. It was a lot of fear and a lot of luck. All of that is what these last 2 years have been about. That's all to say it takes an entire village to grow an artist, an entire village with the heart of the arts. Mayor Bill Lambert and members of the Moscow Arts Commission, I am so grateful. Thank you very much. If anybody wants me to unravel their twine for a personal sculpture, see me out.
Thank you, Gerri. I did want to say also that Rebecca Rod, as an artist in her work, provided the Mayor's Arts Awards. So we had David Herbold's art today, but she was our artist, was it 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a beautiful ceramic vase. So Our next award and final award is the Lifetime Achievement in the Arts. And this award was nominated by Tiffany Midge, so we're going to have her come up again and talk with us. She's here. Yes.
You've been standing for a really long time. Do you need to sit down?
No.
Sit down. I was so worried about it.
You know, yeah, I'm working out with that guy over there, and we hit the gym once in a while, so I'm okay. I'm
Well,
good.
you're in better shape than I am, and I'm sitting. Okay. I'm very, very happy to present this award, and it's a little bit of a sod buster, I understand. It hasn't been an award before, right? This is the first time?
No.
No? Oh, you did? Okay, somebody told me otherwise, so I wasn't sure. I wanted to read something off of the Poetry Foundation webpage, just to give you a little bit of an overview for Robert Wrigley. Wrigley believes that poetry can influence the world and people's lives rather than just reside within the confines of academia. He holds that poetry can have a redemptive function. It can look at the chaos you see and make a kind of sense of the smallest part of it. His poems are concerned with rural Western landscapes and humankind's place within the natural world, and he aims to tell all of the truth, but make it sing. Wrigley cites Keats and Stevens as major influences and aligns himself more closely to the unifying goals of modernism than to the dysfunctions of postmodernism. While his voice has been fairly consistent throughout his career, his sequence Earthly Meditations in Reign of Snakes, 1999, marks a departure from his established style and cadences, notably for its emphatically sound-driven nature. Wrigley's 5-part meditation was written within a span of 2 weeks and is steeped in the voices of Red Keys, Sylvia Plath, Galway Cannell, and Dylan Thomas. I wanted to read some statements from some of the nominators that I received. Bob Wrigley is the author, so far, of 10 much-acclaimed books of poetry and a recipient of the Guggenheim and Rockefeller Fellowships, among many other distinctions. He regularly publishes in the most significant venues in our country for poetry, including the New Yorker, the Atlantic Monthly, Poetry, and others. Over the course of his career, he has published over 600 individual poems. Think of each one as the equivalent of an art song by Franz Schubert. So think of each poem as a song by Franz Schubert, whose lifetime production of those beautiful works totaled about the same number as Bob's. He is both a winner of Reign of Snakes, 1999, and a judge for the Kingsley Tough Poetry Award, the world's largest monetary prize, currently at $100,000 for a single collection of poetry. His poems have 3 times appeared in annual volumes of Best American Poetry, and one of them also appears in the Best of American Poetry, selected by former U.S. Poet Laureate Robert Pinsky. Okay, his collections include Anatomy of Melancholy and Other Poems by Penguin, released 2013 and winner of the Pacific Northwest Book Award. Beautiful Country, also by Penguin, in 2010. Earthly Meditations, New and Selected Poems, 2006. Lives of Animals, 2003, winner of the Poets Prize. Reign of Snakes, 1999, winner of the Kingsley Tough Award. And In the Banks of Beautiful Sins, 1995, winner of the San Francisco Poetry Center Book Award and finalist for the Lenore Marshall Award from the Academy of American Poets. What My Father Believed, 1991, Moon in a Mason Jar, 1986, The Sinking of Clay City in 1979, and his newest collection is titled Box, forthcoming from Penguin this March. Between 2001 and his retirement this last May, Bob served as a professor for about 40 graduate students in the MFA program in creative writing at UI, of whom almost half are now teaching poetry at institutions across the country. Another nominator said, and I loved this story because it's hard to imagine, that she first met Bob at a book signing at the Palouse Mall, shortly after he began teaching at the University of Idaho. He and his wife, Kim Barnes, were sitting at a folding table in front of Walden Books. I had planned on buying Kim's book, she says, but I decided instead to purchase one of Bob's as well, based solely on its cover, The Reign of Snakes. And she says that book changed her life. Another former student wrote that Wrigley knows that poetry, which originated from music long ago, still draws its power from wordless, unspoken lines that border on music. And she goes on to say, I think of him as a poet of the people for his accessibility and as a seer for his multifaceted vision. When he was an Idaho writer in residence in 1988, he traveled to remote Idaho communities to read. The experience taught him that poetry matters to all who hear it. And finally, this is from another student, former student and colleague of Bob's. In his own work, Bob shows a ferocious commitment to opening up moments. It's hard to describe the pleasure derived from reading his poetry because it's sort of an ineffable wonder that rises off the page and the next page and the next. Each poem is so consistently good. Each achieves something. Each is a gift to the reader. And it is a joy to nominate him today, and I wanted to congratulate him, wherever he's sitting. I'm not wearing my glasses. There you are. Okay. Would you please come up and accept this award? Congratulations.
This last one is kind of a fun one for me. I've got a little story here with Robert. And Tiffany had mentioned earlier between 2001 and Bob's retirement that there was 40 graduate students in the MFA program in creative writing at UI, who almost half of them are now teaching poetry in institutions all across the country, and that is a very high rate, and I thought that was quite an achievement. And here's another thing that I wrote, that this person, Gary Williams, had wrote. It says, Wrigley students in the program, and just not graduate students, but it's important to emphasize that he has specifically not limited his teaching to assignments to graduate students. He also regularly teaches all undergraduates in poetry courses as well. And I can attribute to that because I was a student of Bob Wrigley's many years ago. Neither one of us had a grade. We were young guys. I was just an old student. Bob's not that old. But anyway, and it goes back not only years but decades ago. So it was my pleasure when I read through this. I thought, holy smokes, man. Things kind of come around, go around, and come around. So anyway, Bob, welcome to this. This is my pleasure.
I have like 5 sentences. I got a lot more in my pocket. Not literally in my pocket, that was my figurative pocket. The first thing I would say is that I would hope that in what lifetime I have remaining, I might actually accomplish a few more things. It's the odd thing about a lifetime achievement. It sounds like hitting a marble. But I would also say that foremost among those things that I would like to accomplish between now and the end of my lifetime, that these are things that do not have to do so much with art or with poetry, but with character. These are things that I always associate with the very nature of this particular city of Moscow itself. The things I mean are these: kindness, generosity, empathy, tolerance, and grace. This extraordinary little city, and in my experience, I go to college towns and university towns all over the country, give readings, get shown around, meet places. In my experience, there's nowhere else like this, anywhere. And that's an extraordinary thing. Not everybody here, of course, but as far as I can see, the vast majority of Moscow citizens are just that. That is to say, they are kind, they are generous, they are empathetic, they are tolerant, and in the way of character, they are graceful. In other words, what I want to do in what time I have left is to live up to their example. Therefore, I'm enormously grateful and humbled and gratified by this award. I thank Mayor Lambert and the City of Moscow and its Arts Commission, and I thank its kind, generous, empathetic, tolerant, and graceful citizens. Thank you very much.
Earlier this evening, I made some comments about what a fun evening this would be, and it has truly been a fun evening. And we've listened to words from many, not only wise people, but artists who are absolutely fantastic. So this is a fun night for Bill Lambert, everybody. And it's my pleasure to get a chance to be a part of it. That's why I'm standing up here this entire time. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen Burns, our Arts Director of the city, and let her finish off the program.
So I don't have much to say. I just want to thank our Arts Commission for all the work that they put into tonight's program and for creating this environment. I also want to thank the citizens for following the rules. For putting in your applications, for getting your letters. It is a lot of work, but you see the fruits of your labor, so you all did a very good job. So with that, I'd like to give you a round of applause. So thank you.